SmackDown in '04 was insane. Let's watch.
You get out of here. You go back to Mexico.
The Ruthless Aggression era was truly an iconic time for wrestling, and part of what made it so special was just how wild it could be at times, for better or for worse. But in that era that lasted around 6 years, for some reason in 2004, Thursday nights on UPN at 8 p.m, SmackDown would air, and it would be batshit insane every single week. What was once a show known for showcasing amazing in-ring work ended up being a show that have storylines consisting of stabbings, shootings, border patrol, heart attacks, cement burials, and so much more. To simply put it, SmackDown in 2004 was insane. When 04 began from a distance, SmackDown as a whole seemed pretty normal. You had Brock Lesnar as the champion, John Cena was the up-and-coming star, Eddie was about to break out, and Paul Heyman was the general manager. It seemed like just another wrestling show. And then you would actually watch the show, and next thing you know, all you see is the Basham brothers tied up backstage in some dungeon just getting whipped and tortured by a woman named Shaniqua. What kind of wrestling was this? But despite this and other interesting stuff, SmackDown kept it relatively normal until WrestleMania. But once WrestleMania season was over, that was when all hell broke loose on SmackDown, and it all began in March when Paul Heyman quit as the general manager of the show. A new general manager was announced, and that turned out to be a suit-wearing, cracked-out Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle becoming the SmackDown GM was the moment that everything just went mental. The same night Kurt Angle became the GM was also the night that this tubby, uncoordinated just meme of a person, after spending years in the lower mid-card, magically became the biggest demon on SmackDown. Bradshaw became John Bradshaw Layfield JBL, and the rest was history. Kurt Angle became the Maniac GM, JBL was the 2016 Donald Trump all the way back in 2004, and every week something was just going down on UPN. One week, Kurt Angle made a match between Eddie Guerrero and The Big Show, and if Big Show lost, he would have to retire. So what happens? Well, Big Show ends up losing and he goes on a rampage. Big Show basically becomes King Kong real quick, and while walking around backstage, the gorilla, just like the movie, found his blonde girl. He thinks Tori Wilson was laughing at him for losing his match and having to quit or retire, so this idiot starts breaking windows, crying, spitting everywhere, crying again. The gorilla had officially lost his mind. And it was all Dr. Evil's fault, I mean Kurt Angle. So Big Show flips over a car and begins chasing Tori Wilson backstage. And we just cut to another match like it's fine, it's all good, this happens every week. And after the match, the show ends with the Big Show holding Tori Wilson on top of a balcony, threatening to throw her down and basically kill her on television. So out comes GM Kurt Angle to save the day, right? And you think, okay, it's wrestling, everything will be fine, whatever, maybe they'll brawl, it'll be alright. Like, it's nothing we haven't seen before. Not on 04 SmackDown. Big Show grabs Kurt Angle and chokeslams him off the balcony, and you just hear this nasty thud. And ladies and gentlemen, it is presented, it is assumed that Kurt Angle is dead.
That cartoon ass pose. I hope you show it.
Tori is screaming her lungs out, Big Show's face is on your screen looking like a Neanderthal, just absolutely disgusting, and then all you see is Kurt Angle just wasted, like legit wasted on the ground with blood coming out of the back of his head. And SmackDown just ends with you assuming that Big Show has killed Kurt Angle. Yep, so totally normal, because now SmackDown is apparently Law and Order SVU, and then next week the show takes place as usual. There's no police anywhere, there's no investigation, no funeral, no memorial, there is nothing. They just say Kurt Angle had an accident, but hey, here's JBL beating up a Mexican. What? During all of this, JBL found himself as the #1 contender for Eddie's title, and the madman was out here trying to start a civil war with the Mexicans on SmackDown. He was out here putting out PSAs of how JBL was going to fix America after becoming WWE champion, how illegals were ruining America, how they need to stop teaching Spanish in schools and so on. And remember how I said JBL was the #1 contender? You're probably wondering, how did JBL become the #1 contender? Well, before Kurt Angle got clapped, he raised a very important question to the SmackDown roster. He wanted to find out who was the greatest American on the SmackDown roster, and whoever could prove they're the greatest American would get the title shot. So in the ring was the Big Show before he went mental, John Cena, Booker T, Charlie Haas for some reason, and JBL. And when it was time for JBL to speak, he pointed everyone's direction.
Look at throwback Cena.
And JBL. And when it was time for
That's the Cena I grew up on. I don't know what this new Cena is.
JBL to speak, he pointed everyone's direction to the video board and he played a video of him at the US and Mexico border. This mother was out here dressed like a border patrol army ranger or something, and he was talking about how the evil Mexicans are ruining America, how they don't pay any taxes, how they're lazy, and then proceeds to say, there's a whole herd of Mexicans over there, the government won't do anything about it, I will. He then proceeds to run up on a Mexican family and literally kicks them back to Mexico, talking so much shit. All you hear is the poor family screaming, running away, and he just stands there like he's Eric Cartman at the border doing this a great American service.
You're pretty good at stopping Mexicans, son.
And it ends with him just staring into the distance, just looking for more Mexicans to kick out. I can't. The fact that this was aired is wild. It's hilarious, it's insane, it's shocking, and it wasn't even a big deal. It was just another week on SmackDown. We go back to the arena after JBL plays the video, and yo, Kurt Angle is just standing there looking like this was the greatest thing he had ever seen. Just look at the look on his face. And ladies and gentlemen, that's how JBL got a title shot. 2004 SmackDown, baby. But fast forward to the end of April, Kurt Angle did eventually make his return to the show in his iconic wheelchair. Back from the dead, here he was. Poor guy was in the middle of the ring crying, telling us how he'll never be able to wrestle again and how that he can't even satisfy his wife anymore because of the Neanderthal. And as a result, Angle just became a sociopath. But let's get back to JBL, because remember, he is the demon of SmackDown in 2004, and you thought him at the border was wild? Nah, it gets even more wild. In May, an episode of SmackDown opened with Michael Cole in the ring staring into our souls, telling us how over the weekend an unfortunate accident took place. He then shows us footage from a non-televised show that consists of Eddie Guerrero in his hometown celebrating with his wife, daughters, and eventually his 77-year-old mother on Mother's Day. And bro, I can't believe this happened. So they're showing us Eddie celebrating with his mom in the ring, and all you see is JBL the Demon pulls up and clotheslines Eddie Guerrero. The Demon then proceeds to trash talk Eddie's mom to her face. Okay, that's fine, you know, we've seen stuff like this before. Well, he keeps going and going until Eddie Guerrero's mom has a heart attack in the ring.
Wasn't this
you just see
too?
Eddie's mom collapse, the arena goes quiet, Eddie is tripping, JBL runs away, they bring a stretcher out, and you're just there watching like, what kind of cracked out storyline is this? And that's how they open SmackDown. They show the footage in its entirety, 10 minutes of it, and then it's like, hey, welcome to SmackDown, enjoy the show. How do you even think of this? So JBL and Eddie have that title match, right? One of the craziest matches in the history of wrestling. And to follow it up on SmackDown, they had Eddie pass out in the middle of the main event because he lost too much juice at the pay-per-view. So now it looked like he was the one having a heart attack. This is how the episode of the show ended. Why? Why was the company tweaking this hard? Why did they want their fans to think someone was dying every single week? As the summer went on, Kurt Angle was doing his thing as the evil wheelchair general manager. Eddie continued his feud against JBL. For some reason, The Undertaker was in a feud with Paul Heyman, who made the Dudleys kidnap Paul Bearer. And Heyman would say, the only way I'll let Paul Bearer go is if you join us, Undertaker. And this led to a match at the Great American Bash. But not a normal match, because why would we have that, right? This is 04 SmackDown. Nah, it was a match where by the stage, Undertaker's boy, Paul Bearer, was locked in a glass structure which was connected to a cement truck. Because yes, normal people think of stuff like this. And the stipulation was, if The Undertaker won and beat the Dudleys, Paul Bearer would be buried in cement on live pay-per-view and die. Basically, if The Undertaker won, Paul Bearer was dying. So Taker either had to lose on purpose to save his boy or win and be the reason Paul Bearer dies. And what does The Undertaker do? He beats the shit out of the Dudleys, and as the match goes on, the cement fills up more and more in the structure until Paul Bearer is almost buried alive. And at the end, Taker wins, and it's like, oh no, Paul is dead. But Taker uses his superpowers and scares Paul Heyman away from the lever, and he goes up to the structure to, you know, save Paul Bearer, as we would assume. This is his boy, his amigo, his friend, he would save him, right? Psych, for some reason, The Undertaker just says, "Rest in peace," and pulls the lever, and a cement comes down into the structure, burying Paul Bearer alive. The Great American Bash ends as you are watching The Undertaker murder his boy Paul Bearer for no reason, and that was it. That was the end of the pay-per-view, and it was never mentioned again or discussed again, because it's fine, it's normal, it happens, it's SmackDown in 04, people are getting clapped. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Heidenreich. Now you're probably wondering, what the hell is Heidenreich? Well, this bozo was a psychopath on the SmackDown roster who made his debut in August of 04. He would be out there attacking fans, interfering in random matches, and even though Paul Heyman was his manager, he did his own talking and his own promos in the form of poems, calling them disaster pieces. His poetry would depict how he hates the world and how he was going to destroy his opponents, among other things, and one of the wildest things in SmackDown 04 was the infamous night Heidenreich kidnapped Michael Cole. Poor Michael Cole was just commentating SmackDown as he usually does, and out of nowhere, this guy, this psychopath, just grabs him and just takes him with him to an undisclosed location in the arena and did this to him. He went behind him and read him a poem, and all you hear is Michael Cole pleading for help and Heidenreich saying, "No one knows the pain inside." And it's like, no, nah, I think Cole can definitely feel the pain inside. Michael Cole was never the same again. But wait, on the exact same episode of SmackDown, that wasn't even the most insane thing that happened. That, my friends, was saved for the main event. It was supposed to be just another match, right? It's supposed to be just another tag team match. The Big Show was back and was teaming up with Eddie Guerrero against Kurt Angle and Luther Reigns. And at first, it was the most typical and most average tag team main event ever, and it was perfectly fine. We had some cool spots, some interferences, it was same old, and just when we thought we had seen it all on 04 SmackDown, in the main event of the 5th anniversary show, Kurt Angle, after getting knocked out of the ring in the middle of a tag team match, pulled out the strap. And I'm not talking about a title belt. He pulled out the burner, he pulled out the heat, he pulled out the blicky, and like he was about to play duck hunt, this guy was casually reloading beside the ring. He pressed circle to crouch like it was Modern Warfare 2, and after camping out for a bit, he went inside the ring, and Kurt Angle, on an episode of SmackDown on broadcast television on a show that was rated PG, quickscoped the Big Show. In one of the most surreal things I had ever seen. I will never forget being 6 years old watching this live and seeing Kurt Angle's, in my eyes, shoot and kill the Big Show in the middle of the ring. My jaw was on the floor. All I heard was Taz yelling, "He tranquilized him, Cole, he tranquilized him." I didn't know what a tranquilizer was. To me, this just looked like the same shotgun from Vice City. I thought Big Show was dead, and then he turned into a deranged grizzly bear, or better yet, he turned into Sandy Cheeks like that one time she was hibernating, and just like how SpongeBob and Patrick shaved Sandy, these bozos started shaving Big Show's head too. Yes, an episode of SmackDown ended with Kurt Angle and his gang getting a strap, shooting Big Show with a tranquilizer, and then shaving his head and then just laying him there for dead. Yo, how? I don't get it. Like, what were they smoking? What were they drinking? And I'm not saying that like it's bad. I'm just trying to understand how. How do you reach the level where this is the creative stuff you think of? How did SmackDown become a show with shootings, falling off balconies, Heidenreich, kidnapping, cement burials, border patrol, fake heart attacks twice, you know, just in case you missed the first one? You know what, as silly as it is, as stupid as it is, take me back. Please take me back. And the funny part is, everything we talked about, nothing traumatized me as much as the last thing on this list. As 2004 was coming to a close, my beloved John Cena, who despite the insanity around him, had a pretty chill 2004. As the year was almost over, he was set to go out and shoot his first movie, The Marine, in Australia. And this was going to require him to miss around 2 to 3 weeks of television. And normally in wrestling, when someone is about to miss time to fill a movie or something, they usually have a storyline where the person gets injured and written off TV. But the thing was, this was John Cena. This was Mr. Cool Guy, rapper guy, thug life, word life. He can't just get injured. Nah, they had a much more creative idea for him. So they had Carlito beat John Cena in his debut and win the US title, and the episode of SmackDown ended with Cena laid out and destroyed, and Carlito even snatched his chain, which would usually be enough to write someone off for a week or two, but nah, not in this case. Because the next episode of SmackDown begins with Teddy Long in front of the SmackDown roster announcing that John Cena was stabbed in his kidney at an after hours club last weekend. The whole roster's there like, oh my god, no. And they had Teddy Long say, it's very serious. I don't know what's happening, playa. The doctors are fighting hard. But you know what, guys? The show must go on.
You are not.
I don't think you guys understand how traumatizing this was. I was 6 years old and I turned on SmackDown all excited just to hear that my favorite wrestler had been stabbed. Why? What was the need? I was 6 years old and I thought my favorite wrestler was going to die. Why would you do that? Why would you go to those extreme lengths? I can't. I'm done. As you can see, 2004 SmackDown was insane. Now I know the entire era was pretty insane, Raw was doing some pretty wild things, but there is just something about 04 SmackDown just being this nuts that just sticks with me. You gotta remember, SmackDown was a highly censored show back in the day. This wasn't on a cable network, this was on broadcast TV, and remember, even though Raw and pay-per-views were TV-14 back then, SmackDown was PG most of the time, but that didn't stop them. 04 SmackDown, what a trip. It might not be the best television, there were a lot of bad matches, the roster was very thin, there were so many stupid feuds to fill up 2 hours of TV, but of course, I look back at this fondly. This was my first introduction into wrestling, and what an intro it was. Just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier, it definitely did. What a time it was to be alive. In the comments down below, let me know what is your favorite memory of 04 SmackDown, and second, what do you think is the most insane thing they did in 04 SmackDown? It's your boy Pav, aka Wrestling Gifts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys soon with the next one, but until then, take it easy. Later, guys.
Alright, y'all, that's my reaction. Leave some comments down below. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you on the next one. Toodles.